Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast, is sponsored by the UPS Store Canada. More than 380 convenient neighborhood locations throughout Canada. The UPSstore.ca.
Anytime go. If you've been following the podcast, you know that how stupid that is. Hey there, I'm Terry DeMonte. That's Ted Bird. It's the Standing By podcast for Wednesday, the 4th day of June, 2025. And let's get these pieces of junk off the table.
Should we? Yeah, yeah. Our executive producer, Jessica Dion DeMonte, is going to be angry that we've got brand merchandise.
Well,
on the table.
That's not my favorite place to go. I go because it's convenient, but it's not my favorite place to go with their shitty food. And,
it's only Canadian in name.
That whole Canadian things that ship sailed a long time ago, and they've been peddling as fast as they can with recent events to remind everybody that Tim Hortons was a Canadian guy, but that's Brazilian.
Yeah, it's owned by a Brazilian hedge fund, I think.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Did I tell you about when my daughter went to Singapore with her husband last fall, and I said to her, "Send me a picture from Singapore," and she sent me a picture of a Tim Hortons in Singapore.
We're glad to have you along for the ride today, or whatever it is you might be doing. And as usual, we start by saying thank you so very much to our title sponsor, the UPS Store Canada. Ted, you were at a big event this week for the UPS Store Canada.
They were a major sponsor through their president and CEO and our great and good friend David Drucker of the Starlight Foundation's Drive for Smiles, which is an event where a bunch of people with beautiful exotic cars get together and they go, in years past they've gone to Tremblant. This year they went up to the iCar track at Mirabel, and they take kids, sick kids, and like seriously ill children, and they take them for a ride around the track in a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a Porsche or a Mercedes there was everything there short of a Bugatti.
Yeah.
There was a Rolls-Royce SUV there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I said to
I don't think I've ever seen one of those
No,
things.
and I said to my son Charlie, and Charlie, who knows everything about cars, I said, "What the hell is that?" And he said, "Oh, that's a Rolls-Royce such and such." And I said, "How much?" He goes, "Oh, north of 7 figures."
Wow.
So David was one of the founders of this event.
He's grown this event.
Has he ever?
Yeah, he's been at it for years.
Yeah, I was looking, funny you would mention that. This morning I just Googled it, Drive for Smiles Starlight Foundation. I found a news article from 2014. And they were talking about how it raised $50,000 and how thrilled they were that year. Yeah. This year, it raised $650,000, and David was a little disappointed.
Was he really?
Yeah, because it was because of the weather. The weather put a bit of a dent in it because Saturday it was cold and rainy. Saturday, like this spring, felt like most of this spring felt like an October day. But all in all, a huge success, and what a great thing, for those families to take their minds just for one day, to give them a little bit of joy in their lives and take their minds off of the adversity that they're facing, whether it's the sick child, him or herself, or one of their siblings. Yeah. David was telling me that. It's great for the siblings who are struggling with having, a sick brother or sister. So it was a terrific event, nice cars. Went out to Aya, Lebanese cuisine on the Trans-Canada Service Road after that. They held a big shindig. Trans-Canada and Kirkland. I'd never been there before. Boy, was it.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with this place. You raved about it to me on the phone.
So good.
How many cars would you say were there?
There had to be anywhere from 50 to 100, at least 50 cars, I would say, and all high-end cars. And like I say, everything short of a Bugatti. And I said, I didn't see a Bugatti. And David said, no, apparently there's one guy in Montreal who's the Bugatti guy, and he doesn't bring them out if it rains.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah, so that's why there was no Bugatti.
Anybody got a spin in the Passat?
No.
No?
I did not take the 2013 Passat out onto the track. So that would have been pretty embarrassing.
Nobody would have wanted to ride in the Lincoln.
Probably not.
Want to go for a ride in my Lincoln Corsair?
Yeah. I tried to get my friend Mike's 500 horsepower Mustang, but he's put it away because he's got a bunch of renovations going on, and He's trying to cut corners a little bit, so he's got a Corvette and a 500 horsepower Mustang.
Wow.
He's put them both away because the insurance on those is so hefty that he wants to take that money and put it into his renovations.
Wow. Well, tip of the cap to David and the people at the UPS Store Canada. We tell you every week there's over 400 locations. And if you listen to the podcast on a regular basis, you know how we feel about the UPS Store Canada. Doesn't matter where you're listening. And we've been getting more mail lately from ex-Montrealers all across the land. There's a location near you run by an entrepreneur that lives in your community. Find the location near you at the upsstore.ca. You were saying that the weather was shite. And I was reading in the Journal this week that it's probably one of the wettest Mays in years, and it's hurt golf courses. Not that that's the end of the world, but if you golf, you know what I'm talking about. It was an interesting article about how the constant soaking has set...
And cold.
Yeah, and cold.
Like this I've said this before, this April and May felt like October and November.
Yeah, it really did. We didn't let the weather deter us. God, I had a busy week last week. I was flitting hither and yon for all kinds of outings. I went to see Jet. You remember?
Are You Going to Be My Girl?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was about
that
to
was
sing. I'm glad you put an end to that. They were at the Olympia Theater. The Olympia Theater, I'd forgotten what a beautiful, beautiful venue this is. It's right in the heart of the gay village, which, by the way, has gone for a shit. Have you been down to the gay village?
Well, you and I went down there for a corporate speaking gig about a month ago.
I was really taken aback because the gay village for years and years and years was in rough shape. That's St. Catherine Street East. And then there was a bit of a renaissance. It was beautiful, lots of cafes and lots of stores, and now not so much. Now, I have to say, when we came out of the show, we had originally planned, we had parked and taken the metro to the venue, and our friend G said to us, never mind taking the metro, it's late now, let me drive you back to where your car is parked. And I was kind of relieved because not so comfortable.
Listen, even the middle of the day, when you and I were walking down St. Catherine Street around Barrie that day, happened. No, nor do I.
I don't know if it's neglect or I'm not sure
State
what
of the
happened.
Economy. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll have to ask her worship. She might have the answer.
Yeah, well, she doesn't care anymore. She'll be gone in October, so she doesn't mind. Anyway, I thought that was strange. By the way, Jet are amazing. Like, the album came out 22 years ago, and God, they were amazing. And their keyboard player, they had to leave behind in Toronto. They played Toronto a couple of nights earlier, and apparently the keyboard player had some kind of illness, so they were without the keyboard player, but they were amazing. It was a really, really great show and a really, really great venue. And then to change it up, we went to Barrie Manilow.
How was that?
We were at Jet on Wednesday and Barrie Manilow on Friday.
Yeah? How old is he?
He's 81. He's about to turn 82.
And this is a farewell tour that he's on?
Yeah.
Is that what they say?
Well, that's what he says.
Yeah. And how was he in good voice?
I couldn't believe how good it was.
Really, eh?
Because, some of these older performers, Rod Stewart, Paul McCartney, these shows that I've been to in the last 5 years. So I braced myself for, I said to Jess, Jess had never seen him before. I had seen him a couple of times and was lucky enough to meet him once with our old buddy Blair Bartram. And I braced myself for a little bit of, like I thought he's going to be 82. He's not going to be able to hit all the notes. He hit them all.
He did, eh?
And not only did he hit them all, his voice not only was strong, but was in control. You know, when singers go to hit a long note and do the and then sometimes if you don't have control of your voice, it's
like Tarzan.
Yeah. He didn't do any of that, and the show was, you could tell it was like a a smaller version of what he does in Vegas because it was sharp and the lighting was great. The band was amazing.
It was at Place Bell?
No, it was at the Bell Center.
The Bell Center.
Yeah.
And did they fill it?
Not, the stage was moved up a little bit, but let's call it the Concert Bowl, and it was packed. And God, we had fun. It was really quite something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. He was great. And our buddy Ken Connors was there. I
saw a picture of you and Ken looking like two of the guys from Weezer.
I thought that was
with
very
your glasses.
Funny. Yeah, we did. Yeah, and I was standing really awkwardly with my hands in front of my nuts for some reason.
Yeah, but you know what? The only person who notices that is you.
Of course, because when you take a picture, when someone takes a picture and posts it on social media, you immediately look at yourself
and analyze it and go, oh my God, I look stupid, I look ridiculous. And then someone else goes, hey, great picture of you.
Yeah, or you look like the guys in Weezer. Yeah. Anyway, Ken and I were talking about how a lot of radio guys secretly like Barry Manilow. And my theory is in the 1970s, when we were in high school, if you were a radio junkie, you were constantly turning the dial and listening to radio when there was a lot of radio stations, because I was a radio junkie. So I would be listening to CKGM like all day long. And those were the days when Manilow had like 3 or 4 hits in the top 20.
And CKGM was a top 40 radio station.
So you would hear it constantly. And the girls loved Barry Manilow. Mm-hmm. And Barry Manilow had some slow dancing songs. So I think that's where the sort of genesis of why so many radio people are there and appreciate Manilow's stuff.
Well, there's also a nostalgia factor.
Yes,
I mean, there are, I was a dope smoking classic rock, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin listening teenager, and if you mentioned disco, I would scoff.
Yeah.
Well, I was on the hill the other day, walking up and down Allen's Hill in Baie-D'Urfé, and I was listening to "Celebrate Good Times." Come on, I was listening to Isaac Hayes.
Yeah.
I was listening to Shaft. Who's the black private dick who's a sex machine to all the chicks?
Shaft.
Can you dig it?
Thank you. I was just about to make a point about something, and now it's gone. Anyway, I know. Jess and I were talking about it in the car on the way home from Manilow, and we realized, like, back in the late 70s, early 80s, dance music was referred to disco music, which was a pejorative for dance music. Now it's just dance music, right? And I think Barry Manilow got caught up in that.
Yeah, but I think disco, like Sister Sledge, which is another one I was listening to the other day. That was the theme song of the 1979 World Champion Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh, that's right.
We Are Family. Yeah, I find today's dance music is more techno.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that. Absolutely. Here's something I don't understand. I think we might have talked about this on the podcast in episodes prior to this one. Kids at rock shows. When I was at the Olympia watching Jet, and Jet was loud. I mean, they were AC/DC loud. And as a matter of fact, they closed with an AC/DC song. The one with the bagpipes, but they didn't have the bagpipes.
Okay.
So when we left the theater, I was driving just crazy because I kept going, ring, ring, ring. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, that was the part in the song that was missing."
Yeah, you can't do that song. What's the song again?
Go to the top.
It's a long way to the top.
Right, gonna rock and roll.
You can't do that without the bagpipes.
And I was watching the end of the show, and I'm like singing along, and then quietly in my brain I'm going, ring, ring. And when have you ever heard the band forgot the bagpipes?
Yeah, seriously.
I suspect they probably, pardon me, would have done that on the keyboard, and the keyboard player was missing. Anyway. Right next to us was a young couple with, I would say, a 6 or 7 year old boy that they had to keep picking up and buying more popcorn, and he didn't have headphones on or anything. I guess, I don't know, young rocker or just couldn't find a babysitter. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Hard to say. Probably the latter. I mean, I took Charlie to a Green Day concert when he was about that age.
Oh, is that right?
But he was into Green Day.
Oh, okay.
He
Well,
liked
there you
it.
go.
Yeah, because we used to listen to it in the car, and he loved it.
Yeah.
That's why I took him.
Yeah, maybe that's the deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of that topic.
There you go.
Okay. I wanted to mention the Grand Prix because it's not this weekend. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, June 4th, the Grand Prix is not this coming weekend, it's next weekend. But I had somebody ask me about 2026. And yes, the race is confirmed, but the date is not. They are moving the Canadian Grand Prix back into May.
Oh.
Third or fourth week of May. Huh. That's a heavy roll of the dice, if you ask me, because as we've just experienced, May can go either way.
Yeah.
It can be stunningly beautiful or freaking cold.
Yeah.
And anyway, so that moves. They're going to announce what weekend they're choosing in 2026. I think laughably, the people that run F1 are saying it's all part of their charge to net zero, because they say it's too. I think what it is, it's too much for the teams because they're in Europe. They fly to Canada, then they got to fly back to Europe or Saudi Arabia. I forget where. Anyway, they're trying to organize.
So it's for practical reasons.
I think it's for practical reasons, but they've tried to position it in terms of their charge towards net zero.
Are you going to charge towards net zero when you're driving 1,000 horsepower or whatever they are?
Well, and not only that, in an article I read, the people that own F1 are trying to expand it in more places in the world. And in order to get to more places in the world, you've got to pack all that equipment and take it from country to country, and you can't do that by car.
And they tried electric style.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that circuit still exists, but they had one race in Montreal where it was Formula One style racing only with electric cars, but that doesn't fly. The exhaust note is half or three-quarters of the thrill to me.
I agree. That's a huge part of why I loved going to F1 Live.
And F1 lost
Take
me
your breath away.
Yeah, well, when they went from the V8 supercharged engine to the V6 turbo, that changed the exhaust note. It muffled it, and they lost me then.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go now. I wouldn't pay the money to go now because I want to hear that screaming supercharger.
Yeah,
I don't want to hear.
I do too.
I don't want to hear the muffled turbo.
No, and it's that sound that first drew me.
Me too.
You know, I went to a live race and it literally sucks the air out of your lungs. It's so exciting.
Yeah, and before I went the first time, I was dragged there and I was like, Christ, car racing is so stupid and boring, and they drive around and
driving around in circles.
And then I got there and it was this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and the E-race was the end of...
Denis Coderre.
Yes, thank you very much. Was the end of...
That's not exciting.
Hey, I did not forget. I was very excited last week or 1,000 years ago. We had an opportunity to talk to Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And that interview, our conversation with Tom Petty, is coming up. And last week, we forgot the tweet sheet.
What's wrong with us?
Well, you know.
How can we forget the tweet sheet?
What? Hey, where's my phone? I can't find it.
What day is it? Is it Wednesday?
Did I take my pills? I think so.
We're going to do the tweet sheet early. That one's second, Matthew. Here we go. Right off the top. The tweet sheet for last week, only we're doing it this week, from @RodLacroix, inventor of Triscuits. What if you could eat wicker furniture?
That's particularly funny to me because I was just eating Triscuits
on
the
Oh,
weekend.
were you? Yeah, you got to be careful with those. They cut the roof of your mouth right open. Yeah. From @SkinMuffins. Maybe your baby is crying because it wants a cigarette.
Not a mom, I'm guessing.
Probably not. And from at Trumpet Cake, I once evaded a wildcat using nothing more than a cloak, a pistol, 2 helicopters, and a fast-moving barge. Hashtag slick, hashtag talented.
I love the handle, Trumpet Cake.
Yeah, he's very funny. He's a TV writer for Fox.
Is he?
Yeah.
Wow.
He writes for one of their animated comedy series.
And for dessert, we have a lovely trumpet cake. What? Okay, let's. By the way, speaking of entertainment, Sugar Sammy has new shows in English, and here's a surprise: the tickets are going quickly.
They are going quickly.
Yeah.
2 of the 6 shows set for later on this month in Montreal, unilingual Anglophone shows. 2 of the 6 are sold out. Of course, I had it right in front of me before, and now I don't have it anymore. And Swugarsa.
Is that what you typed in?
I typed in Swugarsa.
Yeah, don't do that. It's sugarsammy.com. And it's such a great website because you can find the information you need right away.
Right on the homepage.
Yeah, and you know right away if the show you want to see is sold out, or if tickets are going quickly, that's also listed.
Yeah, well, Swugarsa's shows for, he's got 6 shows, Wednesday, June 18th, Thursday, June 19th, 2 shows Friday the 20th, 2 shows Saturday the 21st, and 1 show Sunday the 22nd. So that's 6 shows. The early show Friday is sold out, as is the early show Saturday, and there's a low ticket alert for the other 4 shows.
Wow.
So act now. Go to sugarsammy.com to see a worldwide comedy sensation from right here in Montreal.
Yeah.
Côte de Neige Bill 101 kid, eh?
Yeah, great thing to do in the summer. Great date night, by the way. Great thing to take the family to.
I don't know about a date night, though, because Sammy's a pretty handsome guy, and the girls kind of like him, eh?
Yeah, but Sammy's spoken for.
I know he's spoken for,
Yeah.
and he's not like that.
No, he definitely is not.
He's a real gentleman.
And he's a proud sponsor of the podcast.
He is.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, why do you guys talk about Sugar Sammy every week? Sugar Sammy is a supporter, and as I've mentioned many times, can't do this without that.
SugarSammy.com for tickets. If you don't see him in Montreal later on this month, your next chance is Ottawa in September. I don't see the Dubai. Oh, there's the Dubai shows. Oh, I think he's added more Dubai shows.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I think he might be in Dubai between now and then. Have I got that right, or is he taking the summer off?
I think it's the fall.
Oh, okay, you're right.
I think.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
Yeah, he's got them in October, so it looks like he's taking the summer off.
Yeah.
After he does Montreal and Gatineau in late June, I think he's probably gonna travel a little bit, or maybe just have a little lie down.
Yeah. Summer in Dubai, probably not a good idea.
It'll be a tad hot, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Hey, Matthew, you turn your mic on, please. Matthew was in Lebanon for his vacation to see family in Lebanon, and when our producer Matthew Borgelli said to us, we said, "Where are you going on holidays?" He said, "Lebanon," and we both said, "Lebanon."
What are you joining Hezbollah?
You had a nice time, and you're back in one piece. You got a little color. I guess the weather was good.
Nice weather was very nice the whole time.
And only one bomb.
Only one bomb went off in the country.
Okay,
while I
good.
was there, I think maybe 2.
That's a good thing in 2 weeks, I guess. One bomb in 2 weeks is pretty good in that part of the world.
Anywhere near where you were, or did you just hear about it on the news or read about it online?
No, I heard about it in the news.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty safe most places if you know where to go.
You were saying, because as Western idiots, we hear Lebanon and we think, oh my God.
No, I've heard good things about Lebanon too. They used to call Beirut the Paris of the Middle East.
Yeah. And so your family you were visiting is it more in the north?
Well, they're more in the middle of the country,
more in the middle,
north of where the war is happening.
And you feel safe?
It's pretty safe.
Yep.
The country's fucked economically.
Yeah, really, eh?
Yeah. Like the currency devalued 90%.
Wow.
So, but people live. People somehow survive.
Life goes on.
Like stuff that happens there, if it happened here, we'd be in turmoil.
Yeah.
But they're just kind of like, okay, I guess this is.
Well,
what
they're
we're
so
doing.
used to it at this point.
yeah.
I mean, Lebanon had a civil war in the 1970s, and I don't know if they've had any
Any
prolonged peace since then.
No, exactly.
Matthew, is it? What's the weather like at this time of the year? Like, was it blazing hot, or does that come later?
No, it wasn't. It was perfect. It
was perfect.
26 degrees.
Really?
Yeah.
And is it like that all the time, or does it get to a point where it gets really hot?
It gets really hot. It also gets really cold in the winter.
Really? Eh?
You could ski in Lebanon, in the mountains.
Wow.
I
My
didn't know
family's
that.
from the mountains, so in the mountains you can
okay.
ski. It's pretty cool because you could be on the beach and ski in the same day.
Oh wow!
I was going to say,
like
did you go to
BC.
I was going to say the ocean. It's not the ocean. It's the Mediterranean Sea. Did you go to the beach?
Yeah, but they don't really clean it and take care of it.
Oh, really? Eh? Oh, that's too bad.
And it's very rocky as well.
It is, eh? Yeah, not sandy, more
No, not
rocky.
sandy, but-
Oh, okay.
Oh,
But yeah,
Well,
very nice country. Beautiful weather. Food was amazing.
great! I'm glad you're back in one piece.
I was telling Terry, I went to a Lebanese restaurant. Did I just tell that story already?
Well, you
I
when-
told that.
with
Matthew
David
was sitting
Drucker.
right here, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Never
he
mind.
was. But
Back
what's
to you.
What's it called?
Old man bird. Aya. AYA. I got a couple old man bird stories for you. Here's another one.
No, that doesn't work.
So I'm driving down the 20 the other day on the West Island between Woodland and St. Charles, and I look in my rearview mirror and I think, geez, that's quite the lineup of cars behind me. And then I look down at my speedometer. I'm doing 85.
Please tell me you weren't in the left lane.
No, I wasn't.
Okay,
I
good.
wasn't. And then later the same day, I'm driving down St. Charles and I realized, oh, my blinker's been on for about a kilometer. But the reason I didn't hear it was because I was listening to Rammstein and I had it cranked.
That's not an old man band.
No, it certainly isn't. But all the other stuff is old man related.
I'm lucky because I have I have a hey idiot, your blinker is on alarm in the car.
Oh, do you?
So and
I'm doing that more and more.
yes, and what happens is when you have one of these alarms that warns you or is trying to tell you to take your blinker off, it does the boom, 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 and then you begin going, what the hell is that? And you start looking around the car like something's falling off, or the oil pan is dropped out, or it's like, oh, right, my blinker. So it's
I think your oil
insulting.
pan dropping out, they would probably have a more significant notification than bong, bong.
Yeah, not that I'm a mechanic. All right, let's. Shall we introduce Mike Campbell? I was really excited about this. I was thinking to myself yesterday when I was going through the mail. Three things, a bunch of things. When we started this, you and I sat across from each other and said, I don't know, maybe. I don't know. You think anybody will care? I don't know, maybe. And then some sponsors came on board, and then we started to get some encouragement. And the way you judge a podcast is looking at how many people listen to the podcast during the week. And every month and every year it's gone up a little bit. As I always say, we're not taking on Smartless or Joe Rogan, but, for our Montreal-focused, Montreal-based podcast for Montrealers and ex-Montrealers, it seems to be growing a bit. And I can tell by the mail, I can tell by the amount of people that are listening to the podcast. Like I said, we're not we're
not setting the world on fire,
exactly.
but the growth is apparent.
Yeah, and
we get nice feedback on social media.
Very
as well.
gratifying for us, and the mail too. We're going to read the mail at the end of the podcast.
We got some nice
today.
letters this week.
Yeah, and all of it is really, really gratifying, and can't thank you enough for that. And the other thing that I've been stoked by the last couple of weeks is the nature of the stature of people like Alan Parsons and Mike Campbell saying, yeah, we'll talk to you guys. It's a nice feather in, I know I'm blowing smoke up our own ass, but it's a nice feather in the cap of the podcast.
It is.
Somebody reached out and asked us if we'd like to talk to Mike Campbell. If you're listening to this podcast on the day that it comes out, June 4th, 2025, Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs are in concert tonight at the Rialto Theater, and there are still tickets available. Now, I know if you're listening to this 3 days after we recorded it, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to
But
encourage.
it's still interesting to listen to a guy who played
Absolutely.
with Tom Petty, among others.
He was Tom Petty's, the way he describes it, he was Tom Petty's brother.
Wow.
And he tells a story in the conversation that's been pre-recorded about his time with Tom Petty, about his time with Fleetwood Mac, and about writing The Boys of Summer with Don Henley.
Wow.
This guy is the most, the guy is just a legend and an unbelievable guitar player, producer, and happens to be a really, really nice man. So why don't we sit back and hope you enjoy my conversation with Mike Campbell. First of all, here's to you and the Dirty Knobs. Your albums are an oasis of rock and roll in a sea of computer-driven technology songs. The records are just so much fun. They're so much fun to listen to. They're so full of, like, they just have a live vibe. Are they recorded live off the floor?
Yes, they are. 95% of them. Occasionally we have a track that was an old tape of mine that we would build up on. But mostly we're a live band. We go in and we just finished our fourth album, actually, pretty much.
It's done?
It's done, but it won't be out till probably after the first, but you know how that goes. But it's already recorded. It's amazing. And most of the tracks, this band, we don't play it more than, once or twice, maybe 3 times, and then we're done. We get the track, and I like to have it live on the floor, like you said, so there's no click or whatever. It's live, and we have Steve Ferroni on the drums, so we don't need a click.
That's fantastic. Your writing process really, well, I don't know exactly what the process is, but amazes me because everything I've read and seen in interviews with you, your writing comes to you. You said you don't suffer writer's block and you don't sit and write. You write what comes to you. Is there a magic to that? Do you just feel lucky, or how does it work?
It is like magic, and I do feel lucky. And it's I write all the time. It's a I guess you call it a gift, and it's an obsession to me on some level because I love the process, and I don't clock in at certain times, on specifically to try and write. I just kind of have my home studio. I'm in it here now. And if I get an idea for something, I just go with it at the moment. Sometimes I get an idea in the car or walking the dogs, or when I first wake up in the morning, something will come to me. And I just, I don't know, it's just, it's magic. I don't know where it comes from, but I've never had trouble with writer's block, except at the beginning when I was trying to learn how to write. But now I can't seem to stop it.
That's fantastic. Is all you dare to dream come true? Is that a little bit autobiographical? Autobiographical, because it could be the story of your life. All your dreams have come true.
All the songs, even if you have a character, they're all autobiographical underneath it, whether you mean to or not. That song is an example of an old song. It was 20 years old. It was on an analog tape.
Oh.
And my engineer was going through it, and he pulled it up, and I go, wow, that's better than I thought. So we just overdubbed onto that demo and made that the record.
Wow. My favorite track on that record is So Alive. I play it over and over and over, and it makes me smile and always feel good. What's the story behind that one?
So Alive, I like playing that too. Alive is great. I mean, we'll open some of the shows with that song.
Great.
It's just such an uplifting adrenaline rush, and it was. It took me 5 minutes to write it, and it came from one morning. For some reason, I was listening to the Ramones.
Oh, wow.
And I just thought that, God, I'd like to have a song with that, that energy. And I went in, and it just came to me.
Wow.
Simple lyrics, but a lot of energy. And the band played it once or twice. That was it.
Do you ever reflect, Mike, if you look at, if you go online and you look at the list of people you've played with over the years, the Spinners and Dylan and Henley, and, the list goes on and on and on. The amount of people that you've interacted with, Roy Orbison, et cetera, et cetera. Do you ever stop and reflect? When you're walking the dog, do you ever sort of look up at the sky and go, "Holy shit, what a run this has been"?
I don't like to reflect. I don't like nostalgia because it's just like going. I like to look forward, but I do have those moments, and it came clear to me when I wrote this book recently that I had to reflect on my whole life. And the phrase I use is, and this will happen on stage sometimes. It'll happen out walking. It'll happen when I'm falling asleep at night. Is just I look up and go, "How did I get here?"
Yeah.
It's a grateful moment, and it's a blessing, and I feel like a very blessed person.
The reviews of the book, I must confess, I haven't read the book. I read the introduction last night, and I have to buy
Mhm.
it. It says, "You're brilliant, soft-spoken, and intensely private." And that made the reviewer wonder why you decided to write Heartbreakers. What made you decide to write that book?
Somebody asked me to.
Oh, okay.
You know, I
There you
wasn't
go.
thinking. The guy's right. I am kind of soft spoken and introverted, I guess, to an extent. But I I had never thought about writing a memoir. I mean, I might dream about writing a novel or something, but
Right.
about a book about me, it never would have occurred to me that anybody would give a shit. But a couple of friends of mine said, this guy's a really good writer, and he sent me his book, Ari Sertival, and I liked his phrasing and his use of words and his rhythm, his cadence. And so I said, okay, well, I'll sit with him and I'll tell him the stuff, and we'll put this book together, and that's how it came to be.
That was the process? You told him the stories, he put them into words, and you gave him the thumbs up, and that's the way the book came
Yeah,
out?
that's pretty
Yeah.
much how it worked.
Yeah.
It was my memory came alive. I don't know where the stuff came out of my mind. I didn't know it was still in there, but lots of incidences from my childhood and up through the Heartbreakers in Florida and L.A. and the whole story. But our process was he would call me, or a couple of times we met in person, and I would just start talking, and he would write it or record it, and then he would put it in, take my story and put it into some kind of print that made sense, and then I would okay it, and then I had to do the audiobook, which is a lot of work, but I got that done.
Yeah, I can imagine. Mike, in the introduction to that book, you said you were in your dressing room as the final notes of your final night with the Heartbreakers were going into the air, and you were hoping to get up and say goodnight to Tom and give him a hug, and you didn't get to do that.
Hmm.
Can you tell that story and tell me how that, what you think about that?
Well, it wasn't a big deal. There's a lot of gigs. We'd end the gigs and we'd all come off and run to get our towels and look up, and the guys had gone off on their own cars or whatever. It was just another one of those nights. I would have liked to have just said, "Hey, that was a great gig with the Hollywood Bowl," and I knew he had a good time. But by the time I was ready to talk and he was ready to talk, we were going in different directions. But it was not any big deal. It was just life as usual. And of course, I didn't know he wasn't going to be alive in 2 days.
Yeah.
But that was no fun. But I got, I have peace with Tom. We had a great relationship, and there was a brotherhood and a love there that was unspoken, but known. And in the hospital, I had a few moments to sit and say goodbye to him. And I don't want to get all morose on you, but I have a sweet non-guilt feeling about the whole thing.
I love to hear that. That is very, very sweet. I got from the interviews I read and watched over the last couple of days, you really did you kept using the word brother, and you guys fought like brothers, but you really were yin and yang when it came to songwriting. It must have been a great partnership when it came to the studio and writing tunes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we were like brothers. We didn't fight like the Kinks,
That's good.
but we had our creative confrontations, but that was
Yeah.
what fuels the quality of what we were doing.
Yeah.
I think I missed your question. What were you asking me?
I was just wondering. Well, I really wasn't a question. Your songwriting, the partnership you had as brothers
Yeah,
really worked when it came to songs, right? You said you had
yeah.
hundreds of ideas. You'd bring them to him, and he was really good lyrically. You were really good musically. It's quite a partnership.
Yeah, it was a match made in heaven. And
Yeah.
I would give him so much music he couldn't even deal with it. Eventually it's like, okay, I won't give you that many songs. But the ones that he picked to write to were always really high quality tunes. So I was lucky to have a partner that good that I could take my
Yeah.
little demo and say, here, what do you think? And he'd hand it back to me. Here comes my girl or refugee or whatever.
Yeah.
It was a blessing.
When Tom passed, you had some time, I guess, before you decided to go out with Fleetwood Mac. Was that a difficult decision to go back on stage?
No, I always intended I would continue making music. I didn't know it was going to be with Fleetwood Mac that year, but I was just thinking about the Dirty Knobs, really.
Yeah.
Once I always figured if the Heartbreakers ever ended, that's what I wanted to do. So I was formulating my plan to get them back together and start a record. And then I got the phone call to do the tour. And I asked the guys, please, I'm just going to go do this little tour with Fleetwood Mac. I'll be back. Don't
This
leave me.
little tour.
And they waited
God
patiently
love.
for me.
Yeah. Man,
And that's how it happened. Yeah.
yeah. Mike, when you're touring with a band as big as Fleetwood Mac and you're playing guitar parts that Lindsey Buckingham, created and made iconic. I mean, you're an iconic, amazing guitar player with your own signature sound yourself. How did you approach it?
It was a challenge for me because
I bet.
I'd never been a copier of other people's licks
Yeah.
unless I was just playing along with Jimmy Page or something. But here I had to sit down, and I respect Lindsey tremendously, and those guitar parts are essential to those songs. So I had to do a lot of homework. I played them my own way. I tried to get the notes right and his feeling the best I could to set the song up. And then it would end up sounding like me eventually on some level. But I worked hard to get all those licks in there that needed to be in the songs.
Did you enjoy that?
I did. It was
Yeah.
a challenge. It was a challenge, but I learned a lot. Just doing that, I learned little things about my own playing that I could adjust or improve on. And um, it was humbling a little bit to not be playing my own licks.
Right.
But, I got plenty of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it true that Stevie Nicks pushed you to step front and center vocally and get back in the studio?
She kind of did. She supported me. In rehearsal, Mick Fleetwood said, let's do Oh Well, and we had um, um, from Glenn, from the doing the vocals, Neil Finn. I'm
Right.
sorry, my mind. And he was doing most of the vocals. And so Mick said, let's do Oh Well. And he looked at me and said, why don't you sing it? I mean, it's not much singing, really. It's mostly
Yeah.
talking. And I said, okay, I think I can do that. So that built my confidence up. And then Stevie had a vocal coach named Steve Rial. And he worked with her every gig to warm her voice up. And she said, go help Mike. So he would come by my dressing room every day and go through some exercises and confidence building. And he helped me quite a bit with my confidence. Yeah.
Um, there are two of my favorite songs of all time. One of them is "Running Down a Dream," and the other one is "Heart of the Matter." I would put these in my top 10. "Heart of the Matter" is, I know "Boys of Summer" came from around the same era, but "Heart of the Matter" is such an emotional and very, very special song. Can you talk about working with Don Henley and why you gave those songs up?
Well, I did Boys of Summer, I gave to Don because Jimmy Iovine had spoken to Don and he was looking for a song. And Jimmy knew I had a lot of demos, and so I had played that song for Tom and Jimmy, and they thought, well, it doesn't really fit in the album we're doing right now. So Jimmy remembered that. I went over and gave it to Don, and he wrote those great words to it. And Heart of the Matter was just real simple music. I just had done a demo,
Wow.
basically finished the way it is, and we ended up changing the key for his voice. But I just did the music, handed it to him, and he handed it back to me with those great words.
Oh.
He told me that was his favorite song too. He said it took me 30 years of living to be able to write that song.
That's great. I heard you say in an interview, "Running Down a Dream" is really on one string. I don't know. You didn't write it on one string, did you?
Yeah, the down,
Did
down,
you
down,
really?
down, 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 down. It's all a low string. Yeah, it's just a low one string riff.
Is that and then you bring your producer's ears to it? Is that how that
Well,
works?
I play the other strings at the end of the song.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I had that riff and some other chords with it, and Tom and Jeff were working, and they heard it, and they thought, well, we could just change the rhythm on Mike's riff, and we'll put some different chords to it, and then we'll give him a long solo at the end. So they helped arrange the song. They came up with the words and the melody, and I did the riff and the solo.
When you're co-producing, is there a lot of a lot of tension? Or is it, because to me, all the Tom Petty records, I think, were driven by your ears. Is that accurate?
Well, to a large extent, I am the co-captain.
Yeah.
But there's tension. It depends on who you're working with.
Yeah.
Like with Jeff Lynne, there was never any tension. It's like, do it his way. There will be no argument about it. Mr. Lynn knows what to do next. And, with Jimmy Iovine, there was tension amongst the band because we weren't playing well in the studio. Right. We were frustrated. So it can be, it should be fun. Like with my band, there's no tension allowed. We go in and we have fun. We cut the songs fast, and we don't nitpick about it.
Yeah, you said improvisation is joy, eh?
It is, yeah.
And that's you can hear that all over the records. Back to Dirty Knobs, a couple of things before I let you go. I'm a massive fan of Ian Hunter. And what happens, do you pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Ian, I got a song called Dirty Job I'd like you to sing on," or like, how does that work?
It went the other way around.
Oh, really?
His publisher called my office and said, does Mike, he wanted me to do an overdub. He's had another song that he wanted me to overdub on. That was what it was.
Oh, cool.
And then I overdubbed on it. And then I got up the nerve to say, well, since, would you maybe sing on one of our songs? And we never sat together. I sent him the tape for England, and he did that verse, which is great. I like Ian Hunter too a lot. Yeah. So it was just kind of by phone, like I did you a favor, now you do me one.
Well, it's an iconic guest to have on the record, that's for sure. I know we're just about out of time. This is a sort of a frivolous question. Can you name one person that you've ever gazed over and thought, holy shit, I'm on stage with?
Well, yeah, Bob Dylan.
Oh, okay. Good one.
There's lots of them, but he's the one who is at the top of the ladder there for me. Yeah. And we did a lot of touring with him, and I'd still look over at him. And I remember we would do, with Bob, we toured the world, and we would do a set, and then he would come out, and we would do a set. Then we would leave, and he would do his acoustic 2 or 3 songs by himself. And me and Stan would be, our drummer would be standing out watching him doing his acoustic songs. There's millions of words, Yeah. And he never missed a word. And we were just looking at each other like, that is incredible. What a genius, And we get to hang out with him.
Does that ever go away, Mike? Do you ever become blasé about it?
Yeah, eventually that goes away. When you meet somebody like that, you're like, you got to pinch yourself at first, like, oh my God, it's Johnny Cash. And he's like sitting right next to me, and then you get over that. You start talking, and you just get down to 2 musicians communicating.
Do you get over being one of those guys now?
I don't know if I get over anything. I don't consider myself on that level, but
oh Jesus, you are.
I love compliments, though. My favorite compliment is when people come up and go, "Oh, Mike, your music is the soundtrack of my life." Yeah. I just go, mine too. Yeah. But it's great to be appreciated. Yeah.
I love talking to you, and I've loved like researching to do the interview because you're just awash in joy. You seem so full of gratitude and just awash in joy. And I think that's reflected on the records, and it's going to be reflected when people go to see you on Wednesday night. I'm really excited about it. You've got Montreal on the 4th, Ottawa on the 5th, Toronto on the 7th, London, Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver. Pretty much you've covered the country. I know you did
Tired already.
Yeah. When does the tour start?
We leave on Tuesday, so less than a week.
Wow. And obviously you love to play live because that's reflected in the records. Coming off
I don't
the
have
floor.
to play live. I'm an old fucker. I don't have to play live anymore. I could stay home and garden.
Yeah.
But I just, it's like I love it.
Yeah.
I love that energy, the give and take, and seeing the people's eyes and trying to have fun together. It's addicting.
Soft seaters are a nice treat after all the arenas and stadiums.
I love the theaters. Yeah, I mean, I've played to 300,000 people, and I've played to 4 people.
Yeah.
But when the Dirty Knobs started out, the first tour we did, I said, book us any bar, biker bars, whatever.
Good
I
for
don't
you.
care.
Yeah.
And then after a year of that, I said, okay, let's see if we can scoot up a little bit to the theaters. But what I found is, those theaters, like 2,000 to 4,000 seat theaters that are all over the country, and in Canada, I hear there's some beautiful ones we're going to hit.
Yeah.
And they have the high ceilings and the ornate architecture. I love those places.
Yeah, and great sounding rooms too.
That too. Yeah. Everybody can hear.
I promised I wouldn't go over 20 minutes. You've been so generous. Thank you so much, Mike. One last question before we go. I got to ask. Everybody's asking me, Dirty Knobs. What the hell? Is it the British Dirty Knobs or is it the technical Dirty Knobs?
Only if you want it to be. It was it was so innocent. We were in the studio one day and the engineer turned over to the Neve console and it went and I go, what's that? He said, that's a dirty knob. And I said, well, we'll be the Dirty Knobs. And then we got stuck with it,
What's the new record called, Mike?
Well, I'm working on that.
Okay.
It might be Mission of Mercy.
Yeah. In the meantime, I'm going to tell everybody, if you haven't picked up Vagabonds, Virgins, and Misfits, I cannot begin to tell you what you're missing. And I can't wait. The show's going to be amazing. You're a legend, Mike, and I appreciate so very much that you took time to speak to me today. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you, too. And don't forget, there's a book out that's doing really well.
Yeah, it's called
Heartbreaker.
Heartbreaker, a memoir. It's I just wrapped up Geddy Lee's book. You're next on the list.
All right, good.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Okay, good luck to you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I can't thank Mike Campbell enough for being generous with his time. And as you could hear, he's kind and he's down to earth and he's humble. And what an unbelievable career he's had. He's played with everybody from Fleetwood Mac to Joe Cocker to the Spinners to Chuck Berry. He's was one of the most sought after guitar players all through the late 70s, 80s, and 90s. He's produced some amazing projects. And that was, I thought, quite a touching story about how on the last night that they played in Los Angeles, they all retreated to their own dressing rooms. He was toweling off, and he thought, I got to go say goodbye to Tom. And he didn't get to see Tom before Tom left. And Tom was gone 2 days later.
Wow.
Really, really nice man. And I cannot say enough about the albums he's made with the Dirty Knobs. As you heard me say to him, in a land of, computer-driven, technically driven pop music that really saturates everything today, these are good old-fashioned rock and roll records.
Yeah. Is he the singer?
He is the singer.
He sounds a bit like Tom Petty. I got am I imagining that or no?
And I didn't ask him about that, but he's alluded to that in interviews. Mm-hmm. Interviewers have asked him about that.
Okay.
Where he talks about they come from the same part of the world,
right,
down in Florida.
Yeah.
And they sort of have the same cadence. And he said, he was with Tom for so long and they were like brothers, that I guess they sort of picked up each other's, sounds and rhythms and when you hang around with somebody for that long, for those so many years, you're not wrong about that. And I encourage you, if you like rock and roll and you like classic rock and you like the kind of music that we played in our radio days, you will love the Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs records. They really, really are terrific. And I wished I had written down the name. I did write down the name of the latest album, but you can just Google it and find it.
Yeah, I went on Apple Music and I put in Mike Sullivan and the Dirty Knobs. I don't know why I thought Mike Sullivan. Maybe because he's the head coach or former. Is he still the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins? I don't know. Anyway, Mike Sullivan's in
And if
NHL.
you're wondering, it all came together quickly at the last minute. And I said to Ted, do you want me to include you on a Zoom meeting? And he said, no, you go ahead. I'll just be, I forget what he said.
No, you don't need me to be comic relief or anything for, the one joke that I cracked to Alan Parsons, he went, that's in very poor taste. When we were interviewing Alan Parsons, Terry's asking him all these fantastic questions and getting great stories, and then I cracked a joke and he went, that's in rather poor taste.
We cut that out too, didn't we? I think we.
I don't know. Did we, Matthew?
That's
probably. It was probably for the best to cut it out, but it was. Yeah, I was alluding to an old tweet. We were talking about how. Well, we asked him about, are you going to play the new music, old? And he said a mix. He said, but mostly old. And I said, yeah, people want to hear the hits. And then I quoted an old tweet that I saw on Twitter that really made me laugh. Band leader on the Titanic. We're going to play something off our new album, Guy Hanging from the Railing. Boo! And I thought Alan Parsons might laugh at that, and he went, that's a rather poor taste.
and it was funnier because Alan Parsons was lovely, but he's very dry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way he delivered that was very dry. The album is called Vagabonds, Virgins, and Misfits, and it is
sounds like an AA
terrific.
Meeting. Oh, well, except for the virgins part. Vagabonds and misfits, definitely. Virgins, not many.
My thanks to Mike Campbell. If you're going to the show tonight, have a ball. I wish I could make it. And by the way, apparently, I haven't read it, but it's next on my list. He's written a memoir called Heartbreaker, a memoir. And apparently it's really, really great. And it's a look back at a really special time in music. My thanks to Mike Campbell and the people that arranged that interview for us. Now, we should, pardon me, we should mention our good friends at Robert Richer Jewelers, because we'd like you to come down and say hello.
If you want free donuts.
Yes.
Robert Richer Jewelers, 309 Dorval Avenue in Dorval, this Saturday from noon to 2. Terry and I are going to be there to do a meet and greet, and Linda said she's getting donuts from Homer's Donuts, which we've raved about on the last couple of episodes, and apparently we've triggered a donut war of sorts.
What?
Someone brought donuts from Ben Habitude, which is on Saint Laurent in Little Italy. Someone brought them to Robert Richer Jewelers, I think because they heard us talking about Homer's. And they were like, Homer's, eh? Yeah, try these. So there could be donuts from Homer's and Ben Habitude.
Wow.
At Robert Richer Jewelers on Saturday.
There might be a donut war starting, because there's another play. I've seen this on TikTok, people comparing Homer's to Bang quelque chose. I can't remember what it was called. And now there's one on Saint Laurent, Little Italy.
Ben Habitude, it's called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we'll see if they show up on Saturday.
We said we would be there. That's this Saturday, June 7th, 2025. I don't know when you're listening to this episode. But from noon to 2, Ted and I will stand around.
Shake hands, kiss babies.
Yeah. And if you want to come say hello.
Yeah, please do. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we'd love to see you. And you can see the shop and meet these people we've been talking about for over a year.
And you can get a great deal.
Yes.
All in-stock, in-counter merchandise, 50% off. 50%, 50% off. Half price. excluding the suicide prevention awareness bracelets. And they're not expensive anyway. They're beautiful bracelets for only $30
For a great cause.
Yeah, and it's for a great cause. Half of the half of the sale price goes to the Quebec Association for Suicide Prevention. And I mean, the Riches are lovely people. You'll enjoy meeting them. You'll get free donuts, and you'll get 50% off jewelry. What do you want, for crying out loud?
And I can't begin to thank them enough for how much they helped me with Jess's birthday. All three of them got involved and directed me, and Jess was very, very happy with her presence.
309 Dorval Avenue in Dorval, across from the I don't know,
Glockenspiel.
Yeah. I was trying to come up with a new one. Yeah. We'll be there from noon to 2 this Saturday, June 7th.
The old standby, Hujaka
Fivets, yeah.
You can park, by the way, across the street there.
Yeah, it's the Dorval Mall. Dorval Gardens, is that what we agreed that it was called?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You know where we won't be? At Accutech, helping them.
No. They'll take it from here, thanks.
Thanks, fellas. You want me to help you with that wire? No, we don't.
No, because we don't want to end up on a YouTube video.
Accutech Electric, as I say every week, you never think about having a really trusted electrician until you need one. And it's not often that you need one, but when you do, remember Accutech. Remember, that's who you want to contact. Now, if you're planning a renovation, you're probably already thinking about different people that you can call. They can take care of that. If you're renovating an old house, as I like to say every week, if you've bought a strip mall and you want to change the lighting, if you want to change the lighting in your dining room, if you think your fuse box smells funny, if the toaster doesn't work unless
That's not the fuse box.
Unplug the TV, all kinds of things. We make jokes every week, but we don't need to tell you. It's such an important thing, and it's something that you really need to trust the professionals with. The folks at Accutech have been in business since 1995 when Tom's dad started the company. It's still a family-run business, and they have a terrific reputation, and they would love to help you out. So what you do is go to Accutech, that's ACUTECH.ca, and they said we should be talking about winter already, eh, Ted?
Yeah, Trish said that this is the time of the year if you're thinking about heating changes for next winter. For example, if you're going to go from oil to electric, that's something that should be addressed during the spring and summer months. Yeah. So if that's something that you've got on your plate, call Accutech or email them now, accutech.ca. Hey, speaking of funny smells, I want to apologize. I was eating cheese in here before you arrived.
That's fine.
I had some Oka and some old cheddar. So that's why it smells like unwashed feet.
Okay, good.
In here. I didn't wash my feet.
Okay,
so
I thought you were going to tell some story about a fart you dropped
somewhere. No.
I'd like to apologize to everybody at the restaurant. That's not where that
I'd
was
never
going.
own up to that.
No, nothing. Not me. I've got so many different things to talk about entertainment-wise. And, every week we talk about things that we'd like to recommend and whatnot. And I'm going to get to that. But first, the mail.
We got some lovely letters this week.
We sure did. I'm going to put on my reading glasses. Did I put them away? Yes, I did. You're an idiot. Where did I? Oh, here they are. Okay. Can't find my glasses. Jesus Christ. You can go to the website, by the way, terryandtedpodcast.com. You can contact us there. You can also email us direct if you like, standingbythepodcast@gmail.com. Here's one I wanted to read this week. It says, Bonjour, Terry and Ted. With a very tiny delay, I discovered your podcast, and I just love it. Want to share this story. Many, many years ago, I was 18, and I moved to Montreal in NDG to attend Concordia University. As the song goes, just a small town girl living in a lonely world. And on top of everything, I spoke French. My English was okay, but not good enough for university. So the adjustment wasn't easy. Many mornings I didn't feel like going to class and my morale was low. Luckily, every morning I woke up listening to you guys. You guys were so funny, and you talked about Montreal in such a friendly and welcomed way. It made a big difference to me. I graduated from Concordia, even stayed a few extra years in Montreal. Fast forward to today, I retired a few months ago from a crazy but very satisfying career. Best decision, but it's another big transition. Listening to the podcast is like reconnecting with old friends many years later. You guys still make me laugh. I live in Quebec City now, and I love it. But it's a pleasure to hear about you and all your favorite places in Montreal. Keep up the good and fun work. You made and still make a difference in so many ways. How about that?
Isn't that nice? I remember being 18 and moving far away from home.
That came from Christine. I don't have a last name there, but Christine, you know who you are. Merci mille fois. That is a beautiful note.
Yeah, it's nice to know that we, and I never thought of it and still don't think of it, that we would make a difference.
Yeah.
In someone's life,
Me
sitting
neither.
here being a couple of goofs.
Yeah.
But if we put a smile on her face at a time when she really needed it, then we did a good thing.
Here's one. Hey, Terry and Ted, thanks for another great episode of the podcast. Normally, I'm a diehard watcher on YouTube, but this morning I had to drive my son to an early morning flight, so I had it playing on Spotify. About 20 minutes in, he looks over and he says, "Hey, Dad, aren't these the guys we used to listen to in the car on the way to school?" That started his memories going, and when you were reading the letters and mentioned revisionist history, he was quick to comment how that was always so funny. I assured him I'd already made the same request a few weeks back. He's now going to add the podcast to his weekly listen. And Mike went on to tell us a story about George Carlin, and his son's name is William. William is an oboist.
Oh,
Living in Brooklyn, getting ready to move to Cincinnati. So we're going to have a listener in Cincinnati.
is he going to play with the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra?
I think he might, because
Wow.
Mike sent me some YouTube links where I was able to watch some of his son's performances. Very, very talented.
That is impressive.
They moved to South Carolina when he hit middle school, and Michael said not to brag. Well, okay to brag. Here's some of his work.
Sure.
So,
Well, you got to do a dad
yes.
brag, of course.
Yeah. Michael and William, thanks to you both. I thought that was really, really such a nice letter.
And we are revisiting the possibility of bringing back revisionist history.
Yeah, by request.
Yeah, if it happens, it'll be next season.
Yes.
But we're thinking about it and looking into the practicalities.
Now, this letter is so long and was so lovely, I can't read it all. It came from Julie Zerl. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Julie. Dear Terry and Ted, my name's Julie, a longtime fan and devoted listener. I cannot tell you how long I've been telling myself that I would write to the podcast, and every week it gets away from me. Shame on me, but by twist of fate, last week the universe intervened, and I had to drop you guys a well overdue email that I've been meaning to send. First of all, she says she listens to us every Wednesday morning when the podcast is out, and on those mornings, she does her parents' grocery run, which is very, very sweet. And she tells this story here about how she was listening. Do you know this story? Yeah.
I saw the letter.
She was listening to the podcast on her phone with her AirPods, and somehow her phone got connected to the grocery store's Bluetooth.
Bluetooth, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, our podcast was on the system throughout the
sound
grocery
system at the grocery store.
And it was right when Ted was doing the Kentucky Derby horse race. If you remember from last week, it's from your stand-up comedy routine.
Yeah. And it was a bit blue in parts.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that was the part
Yes.
that she...
At the wire, it's Orange Man Bad, F. Wayne Gretzky second, and Vacher Polyfield third. And she said it was really loud. She managed to stop it. And she said, you guys are an inextricable part of the fabric of Montreal, the soundtrack of the Montreal I grew up in and fell in love with. And hearing your voice is a familiar comfort. and your stories and laughter are truly much needed medicine for Montreal's soul.
You know what that story reminds me of?
What's that?
You see these videos on YouTube. Guys go into they're in a department store or a hardware store, and they take the phone, the loudspeaker phone, and they fart into it.
Yeah, it's very.
You can hear it all through the store.
It's so grown up.
It's so 13-year-old boy,
but it's all 40 years old men.
Oh yeah, it's old. Yeah, it's middle-aged guys do it. It just kills me with the echo.
Guys, we love that. Anyway, the letter goes on with some really lovely compliments. Julie, I'm so grateful to you for taking the time to write. And she said, I hope this is not too much of a long-winded way of saying how lucky we consider ourselves to get to listen to you both. You feel like old friends. And that was just lovely. And Ted and I obviously got a big kick out of it. Now, last letter from the pile this week. And by the way, when you email us, we do read them all and we answer most of them.
And if we don't, it's because it slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, Ted answers some, I answer some. And here's one from James Potvin. Guys, I love the podcast, but for the love of God, will you cannot spoil TV shows at the end of the podcast, please. Some people haven't seen Mobland yet. For the love of God. And Ted answered, have you seen Titanic? It sinks. And then I begged James forgiveness. I said, I thought we were just kind of mentioning some plot points.
We didn't give away anything on Mobland last week.
Anyway, James did write back and said, you're probably right. James, first of all, thank you everybody for writing. And we take your suggestions. Like we had a listener a couple of weeks ago say, can you please mention the date you're recording? Because I like to go back and listen to older episodes. And James, I sent you notes saying you're right. I should be more careful when we're talking about
we didn't spoil any. We could spoil a ton of things about Mobland this week. We won't, but I think the season finale was the best episode so far.
I loved it.
I was blown away. Absolutely. I'm going to watch it again this weekend.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't say enough good things about Mobland. And it was the final episode. And Jess and I, we chose, because we were really busy last week. We chose Sunday as it was cold, it was dark, it was raining. And I said to her, let's have a lie around day. And then we had to make the decision, do we watch Mobland now or do we save it for tonight?
Do you usually save it for the evening?
Yeah, we usually watch it Sunday night.
I think I was watching it at like 9 a.m. As soon as I wake up.
I think we did too. We were like 10:30 or something. Yeah. And we absolutely loved it. We won't spoil it. We won't say anything about it. But Pierce Brosnan, Helen Mirren, and Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy is so good in this. His performance is really astonishing. He's an effective fixer for a mob family, much like Liev Schreiber in that show.
Ray Donovan?
Thank you, Ray Donovan.
Yeah?
It's the same kind. Ray.
I haven't seen Ray Donovan, although it's on Paramount Plus, so I should watch it.
Watch it, because it's so good, and it's kind of like Tom Hardy in Mobland kind of does for the family what Ray Donovan did for his associates.
And the women love him, eh? They love
Schreiber?
him. No.
Oh, Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy, yeah. Someone, a lady on Twitter wrote this week, my ideal weight is Tom Hardy on top of me.
By the way, if you're wondering about season 2, I looked into it as much as I could. All of the players want to come back. Everybody, the cast, the Guy Ritchie, everybody wants to come back for season 2. And for some reason, it hasn't been given a green light yet.
Really, eh?
So everybody wants to do it. They're keen to do it. The best thing you can do if you love Mobland is maybe watch it again like Ted's going to do. And the streaming numbers will go up.
Who's the actress who plays Kat? Is it Kat McAllister? Is that her name?
Yes.
Who is that?
She was in, if you watched Ozarks.
With Justin Bateman?
Yes, which is another amazing series. She was in that series. And I can't remember the actress's name, but she plays a terrific, bright, brilliant, not so nice person.
Well, if there is a season 2 of Mobland, she will figure prominently in it. Yeah,
she sure will.
Yeah, she'll be a central character right up until somebody kills her.
Yeah, well, in Ozarks, spoiler, in 3, 2, 1, she gets her head blown off.
Oh, really, eh?
So, okay, and the other one that ended this weekend, Friends and Neighbors with John Hamm on Apple TV. We loved it. We thought it got a little weak towards the end. What seemed like a really interesting premise. Hedge fund guy loses his job, gets fired for, gets set up and then gets fired by a boss who's, doesn't have any scruples. And he turns to breaking into houses in his neighborhood to keep his lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. And in the end, it turned into kind of a, sloppy murder mystery thing that was just okay. But season 2 has already been confirmed. So if you loved Friends and Neighbors, and by and large, Jess and I loved it because we love anything John Hamm does. But it got a little bit sort of, not sloppy, but what are you doing in the middle of it?
Yeah, they lost some steam.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting premise. What would you do to keep your lifestyle that? And it kind of went off the rails, I thought, a little bit at the end. Anyway, it's done. It's I think 10 episodes. It's on Apple TV. Season 2 for that has been confirmed. There's a couple of other things I wanted to mention quickly. If you like the crime stuff, I bring that up every week.
Like the true crime stuff?
Yeah. There's a documentary on Netflix called Cold Case, The Tylenol Murders. Do you remember the Tylenol thing in the 80s?
Vaguely.
People were taking Tylenol and they were full of cyanide and I think 8 people died.
So somebody deliberately laced Tylenol with cyanide?
That's what this documentary is suggesting. And if you're old enough to remember the Tylenol scare of the early 80s, this is terrific. If you like crime documentaries, we really enjoyed that one. A documentary on Pee Wee Herman on Crave. Paul Rubens. Mm-hmm. This is a documentary film in 2 parts. The guy who made the documentary is a guy named Matt Wolf, who's the director. He had no idea Paul Rubens was sick. Paul Rubens had been fighting cancer for 6 years, and Matt Wolf, the director who made the documentary, didn't know it. And Paul Rubens is wacky. What a surprise. Pee Wee Herman, wacky guy, in person and...
Is he still alive or did he pass away?
He passed away.
He did. That's what
passed away while they were finishing the film.
Wow.
So it was really...
So he's doing a documentary about him not knowing that he's sick with cancer.
Yeah, he's just doing a documentary on Paul Rubens, his checkered past. Mm-hmm. Because if you remember, Pee Wee Herman was caught a couple of times doing a couple of things. If you remember those stories.
Basically indecent exposure in a movie theater.
Yeah. And he was set up on another charge. Anyway, it's fascinating. But it's 4 hours in total. It's
Holy
2
smokes.
parts. 2 parts, and we really, really liked it. If you're an F1 fan, watch The Seat on Netflix. The Seat is about 45 minutes long, and it's about Kimi Antonelli. Kimi Antonelli is this many, and he's driving for Mercedes.
Kimi Antonelli, what is he, half Finnish, half Irish, or half Italian?
Yeah, he's Italian background. He's 18 years old, and he was chosen by Mercedes when Lewis Hamilton said, "I'm done."
Well, listen, those guys start young.
Do they
start
ever?
Really young.
And it's really, really interesting. It's a lot of family footage, and really, if you love F1, you're going to love The Seat. You've probably already seen it. And if you like baseball, and I don't love baseball, but I like the summer vibe of baseball, there's a Netflix series called The Clubhouse, A Year with the Boston Red Sox. And much like a lot of, places and companies now, Netflix was allowed unparalleled access to the Boston Red Sox for a year in 2024.
Wow.
And it's really, really interesting. A lot of behind the scenes of, the pictures and how life goes and dealing with the media. And it's Boston. So it's got a lot of color and a lot of character. It's called The Clubhouse, A Year with the Boston Red Sox. And I think that's it. I think I'm out of... oh, no. One more.
Okay.
We fell on this British series on Netflix. It's 9 parts, and on Sunday we watched 8 of them. And it was so good that Jess and I kept looking at each other and going, one more?
Another one?
One more?
And how long was each part?
About an hour.
Really?
Yeah. We were on the couch all day, like all day long.
And this was after watching Mobland.
Yes. Yeah. It's so good. It stars Matthew Good and a Russian actor who's amazing, Alexei Manrolov, I think his name is. He's a Russian-born, but a Swedish actor. Anyway, it's based on a Danish book. It's filmed in Scotland. And Matthew Good is so good in this. He's the lead character. It's called Department Q. And what it is, it's a cold case whodunit. So Matthew Good gets this department of, ne'er-do-wells, and they're working on a cold case. And I cannot begin to describe to you how chilling and fascinating. And it's one of those series where in the first 4 minutes you go, what? Wow. So highly recommend Department Q on Netflix. That's the end of my recommendations, Ted, this week.
All right, before we go, we have to mention...
spoil anything?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
No. We have to mention the Mersons.
We sure do.
Merson Automotive, I have to go see them because I'm going on a road trip this summer. I'm going to drive down to New Brunswick to see my mom. And when I spoke to Celso towards the end of the tire changeover rush from winter to summer, I said, what do you want us to talk about when the season's over? And he said, talk about summer road trips. He said, because a lot of people are going to be taking them this year instead of flying to the States because of everything that's going on and people boycotting the States. A lot of people are going to be they're going to be staying in country and doing road trips. And that's what I'm going to do. And he said, bring the car by, get your fluids checked, your brakes, your tires, your battery, give everything the once over just to make sure your car is in good working order if you're going to go on a long road trip. I'm going to New Brunswick. There are stretches of that drive where there's not a whole lot except woods, and I don't want to break down there. And I'm driving around. I got a 2013. It's got under 100,000 kilometers on it.
But it's in great shape.
Yeah, but it's a 2013, so I'm hearing every noise now, and I'm going, I better get that checked before I leave for New Brunswick. So, go by the Mersons, and this is a good time of the year because the rush is over. It's usually quieter in the summertime. And, even if you're not going on a road trip, but you've got some maintenance you've been putting off or repairs you've been putting off, it's a good time to go see the Mersons. Merson Automotive, they're on Saint Jacques, just west of Cavendish. You can call them at 514-487-5545. No more rabies, though. The rabies are over.
The
rabies are over. There'll be rabies in the fall, though. You get rabies in the fall, and the summer, the Yokohama summer tire rebates are over, but there will be winter tire rebates in the fall, I'm sure.
And I know you think this is crazy, but it's fun to visit them.
It is.
It really is fun to visit them. And not just because we know them. They're nice to everybody.
They're nice folks. They've got a wonderful staff. Yeah, go see the Mersons. Tell them Terry and Ted sent you in. As Andrew Carter used to say, mention our name and get a free stare. A free blank stare. Listen, before we go, and while I'm thinking of it,
yes,
I need you to interpret a dream for me.
Oh, right. You told me we were going to do this. I forgot.
I had, how dreams can be so ridiculous, right? So surreal.
Yes.
And I couldn't make this up. So I really did dream this, okay? So get a load of this. I dreamed, Sebastiano, the pizza chef at Non Solo Pane in Dorval.
Yeah.
I dreamed that he was the U.S. Secretary of State. And him and I were dancing an Irish jig in the rotunda at the U.S. Capitol building.
Okay.
What the fuck is that?
Holy shit. I think I'm out of my league on this one. I think I'm out of my depth.
Yeah, the only
He was the what? Secretary
he was
of
the
State?
Secretary of State. Yeah, wearing a very nice
Okay.
suit, and him and I were going in the rotunda at the U.S. Capitol building.
Well,
And I had a couple of nights before I had the dream. I had seen him. I dropped in there last Friday to get
Yeah.
a coffee on my way to a meeting, and I saw Sebastiano there. So I guess he got into my subconscious somehow, and then I had this ridiculous dream.
So subconsciously, let me put this forward. Subconsciously, you think Sebastiano is very friendly and very diplomatic.
He is definitely both of those.
Right.
Yeah.
And you like him and you would dance with him.
But I don't know where the Secretary of State part comes. I guess that's the
my
diplomatic part.
interpretation.
Yeah.
Is you think he's a lovely guy and he would make a good Secretary of
I
State.
guess, yeah.
And he would invite you down to Washington to see him and say, "Hey, how about we do a jig in the road?"
But I mean, dreams are like that. They're
Yeah, they
just
sure
so
are.
random.
Yeah.
They're so random and ridiculous. And again, you couldn't make that up.
No,
like if I
no.
couldn't sit at home and go, okay, I'm going to pretend I had a dream and I'm going to make it up and throw it at
Were
Terry.
you anywhere Irish? Like, did you have any kind
but
were you at a pub? Or?
I had watched and laughed at our promo about Mobland last week.
Okay.
So that might have gotten into my subconscious
There
as
you
well.
go.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a dandy.
Isn't it?
You'll have to tell Sebastiano about that.
Yeah, I will
next
for
time
sure.
you see him.
Yeah.
I want to, just before we go, I want to say thanks to Joe Cohen. You won't know Joe Cohen. Joe Cohen was the man at a management company called Saxon Company that organized my chat with Mike Campbell. And I couldn't be more grateful to Joe. And don't forget, if you're listening to this on June 4th, you could still get a ticket to see Mike at the Rialto tonight. If you're listening to this in July, you missed it. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with Mike Campbell. Very excited that we're able to have him on the podcast and really, really pleased that he was so generous with his time. By the way, you can do that. We've been doing these episodes since
2021, I think, was
there
when
you
we
go.
started.
So we're on our fourth year, and we've had lots of great guests in the past. You can go back either on Apple or Spotify or even YouTube and see our conversations with people like Stu Cowan from the Gazette, Pierre Hood, Dick Irvin, Bill Brownstein,
Mitch Garber,
I will never forget our conversation with
Cleve Ziegler.
Cleve Ziegler. That was he's a what do you call it?
Natural.
Yeah, he is.
He is that.
Yeah. And who was the doctor?
Well, that was Cleve.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, Cleve is the director of gynecology
That's what I was
at the
trying to
Jewish
say.
General Hospital
Yeah.
and one of the funniest people I know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, you can look back at different podcasts that we've done in the past. Thanks for the mail. Go to terryandtedpodcast.com or standingbythepodcast@gmail.com. You can go direct if you like.
And where do people go, Matthew, to like and follow and give us 5-star ratings?
Like and 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Music,
Okay.
YouTube.
There you go. Big thank you to Pantelis and his comedy network for being the executive producer. And a big thank you to Jessica Dion, our other executive producer, and to Matthew Borgelli, who's freshly back from Lebanon.
He's back and alive
in the
and
producer's
unscathed.
chair and unscathed. And thanks to you for downloading the podcast. We'll be back with another one next week.
Standing by, the Terry and Ted podcast has been brought to you by the UPS Store Canada, delivering full-service solutions for your small business.